Hey there, Boozmeisters, and welcome back to the Peach Pod After Dark. I am Jeff. I stick my neck out for nobody.
Damn it! That's what
Joining
I was
me,
going to say.
as the joys of getting to go first.
Ah!
Joining me on the other end of the internet, my cuz-host, who is now having to find another thing to say because I stole it.
I'm Leslie, and I wish I didn't love you so much. I did have a backup, I just didn't get to practice her voice. But whatever.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. That's my... as I watched the movie for like the millionth time, but this week, that's the line that he says it like 4 times. He says it more than he says, "Here's looking at you, kid," which he says numerous times too. And it's a big fucking lie. And I want to talk about that later. But we are this week recording Casablanca, the 1942. Look, I'm just going to say masterpiece.
Absolutely.
And not that I don't 100% mean that in my heart every time I say it, but I mean that.
Yeah.
This movie is a fucking masterpiece. It's so good.
It's beautiful.
And we are watching this in conjunction with Season 2, Episode 4, Play It Again, David, which is a title that doesn't make any sense for what happens in that episode and isn't even a direct quote from this movie. It's a misquote of this movie. But I think we saw an opportunity to watch Casablanca and said, yes, please.
Absolutely. I feel like I learned more this time than any of my previous viewings.
I feel like I saw more things. And let's real quick do the spelling connection.
Okay.
And real quick is a lie. Because this is the most ridiculous spelling connection we've had so far on both ends of the equation. So our spelling connection is an actor named Monty O'Grady. He was an uncredited patron at Rick's. Okay. So his role in this movie is so small as to not even be credited.
Yeah.
Listen to the spelling connection. Love Boat, 21 episodes. He played waiter, passenger, maitre d', and commuter. Heart to Heart, 17 episodes. Restaurant patron, doctor, auction guest, chemist, conference guest, crew member, exhibit guest, guest, hotel guest, observer at filming, opera guest, passerby, picnic guest, uncredited. He did one episode of Dynasty where he appeared as Colby Co. Passerby. He did 7 episodes of Starsky and Hutch where he played Doctor, Hotel Doorman, Laboratory Assistant, Man in Squad Room, Mr. Doddsman, Party Guest, Polaroid Man, uncredited. He did 6 episodes of Charlie Miller. Charlie Miller, dear Lord, Charlie's Angels.
I was like, what?
Yeah, Charlie Miller played basketball for Indiana. I don't know why that name came out of my mouth. It doesn't make any sense.
Nope.
He did 6 episodes of Charlie's Angels. He played bellhop, casino patron, racetrack patron, ship passenger, spectator, waiter, uncredited. And 1 episode of Fantasy Island where he played once again casino patron, this time uncredited.
Wow.
So what kind of career is that guy having? I mean, that's amazing.
That's a more prolific career than mine right now.
He had 21 episodes of The Love Boat where he played 4 different unnamed characters.
See, and I envy him because you can't do that kind of shit anymore. Like, now that we have syndication and streaming and, like, all manner of binge watching, like, you just can't do that unless you're playing it for laughs.
Right. And, I mean, this is just... And the thing is, like, he plays the same role in Casablanca. He's Guy sitting there. You know? And like he was such a good guy walking around behind you that he did it 38, 45, 51, 52 times for Aaron Spelling.
There could be any number of motivations for sitting somewhere. And I bet he killed every single one of them.
He knew exactly what he was looking for when he went to that conference in Heart to Heart. He was not just a passing guest. He was a conference guest. That guy was there for business purposes.
He is the Forrest Gump of Aaron Spelling TV.
So far.
He's just everywhere. He's at every major play.
Yeah, he is. There's this thing where Aaron Spelling, I can't remember what the name was he called Heather Locklear, but it was like My Lucky Charm, something like that. Mm-hmm. Because she was in TJ Hooker, and then she was in Dynasty. And then when Melrose started, she wasn't in it the first season, and the show wasn't working. It was sort of adult episode of the week 90210. Mm-hmm. And nobody cared. And so he brought in Heather Locklear and changed it to the craziest fucking soap opera that's ever been on primetime television. And the show took off. So
yeah. I got an idea of how crazy it is from the recent John Oliver episode. I'm just leaving it at that. I watched Melrose. I don't remember everything. But there are a few things that, oh boy, do you remember? Because they are fucking bonkers. Wow. I love TV.
I know. It's amazing. So, Aaron Spelling connection, 158. One guy, 58 roles.
Yeah, he blew the theory out of the water. He said Aaron Spelling connection, more like, what's his name again? Monty
O'Grady connection.
Monty O'Grady connection.
Yeah. Yeah. So
good for you, Monty O'Grady.
I know, Monty O'Grady just fucking getting it done. Not only does he get to hang out in Rick's Cafe Americaine, but like he got to ride the Pacific Princess 21 different times. I mean, come on.
And he got paid to do it.
Yes, he did. So this movie's pretty great. Humphrey Bogart, Ingrid Bergman, Paul Heinried, Claude Rains, Peter Lorre, among others.
Wow.
It's a everybody who worked there in 1942 on the lot, apparently. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just got to be in Casablanca.
Hey, is this guy doing anything? Put him in. Get him in there.
That's right. Put him in, Charlie.
We need more women in this one. Take 2 hours to do their makeup and then get them in here.
That's right. So so you've seen this before. I've seen this before. It is widely acknowledged as one of the greatest films of all time. I think it was number 2 when AFI did their list of top 100 movies.
Yeah.
Behind Citizen Kane.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, reasonably. No one's going to get mad at either one of these two.
I don't know if I will ever watch it, but I'm just going to trust it. I think at this point it's been joked about and lauded too much. Casablanca is it for me. I think I would combust if something were any better than Casablanca. Better.
Well, I feel like we're going to have to watch Citizen Kane at some point, and I'm sure we'll be able to connect it. I think I might have already looked it up at one point.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a great movie. And I mean, I don't know where we'll fit it in, but, you know, I didn't know where I didn't think we were going to fit Casablanca in, and here we are.
So sledding?
Yeah, well, Cousin Bobby went skiing, but that's not the same.
I was just thinking that, but no, that's quite different.
It's very different. So in... I don't know how many times you've seen this movie. I've probably seen it 4, 5 times, something like that.
Yeah, I think this was my 3rd time actually.
Okay. So here's what I want to know first. Did you remember what this movie was about? Like, did you remember the plot of this movie before watching it this time?
No. And this is what I realize I've struggled with a lot of older films because I grew up watching old movies. Not this one necessarily, although I know I was young the first time I saw this and I
Mhm.
didn't understand the look of it. Just like, yay, romance.
Right.
Um, romance in the time of war. That's what I know as a 10-year
Hmm.
old.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I definitely didn't understand. I mean, the geography alone was still confusing to me. I was like, wait, isn't Lisbon in Portugal and they're having to really reroute. Okay.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then all the underground stuff with Victor Laszlo and the fact that it's kind of a way to get Rick back into, you know, public service, if you will.
I guess kind of. Yeah.
I mean, it's really a bromance movie.
I mean, that's certainly how it ends up. You
It's a
know,
movie about acts of service over love and all the sacrifices that people had to make in that time.
I mean, I think that that's a lot of what it is for sure. Um, so to recap for people who either haven't seen it or like us have seen it multiple times but didn't know what was happening, other than you know Rick and Ilsa and all of the many things that you can quote from this movie, even if
Mm-hmm.
you didn't know you were quoting it from this movie. Um, Rick is an American expat in World War II. And by the way, this movie was made in 1942. Like it's made during the war.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, this is not a like retrospective. This is a present day situation. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so it's a movie about a guy from New York who is living in Morocco. He's living in the Casablanca, which is a port town, and one of the things it's being used for is it's still French occupied. So you can get there if you can like be let in if you're from France. And people who are trying to flee Nazi occupied France, like the easiest thing to do is get to Portugal, get to Lisbon, get on a boat and go to America. But it was hard to do that. You couldn't just go straight there. You had to kind of go the long way.
Oh,
And the
yeah.
long way involved going to Morocco, ending up in Casablanca, where you needed papers to get on a boat or a plane. Actually, it was a plane from Casablanca to get on the plane
Mm-hmm.
to take you to Lisbon required papers. And in order to get papers, you needed to pay or you needed to know somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And as such, it's a place filled with refugees, all stuck there, trying like hell to get out. Except for Rick. He's not trying to go anyplace.
Nope.
And all of that is explained very succinctly in less time than I took to explain it. In like a title card and a scene and a half of dialogue.
I think that's why it makes sense that people always forget this because
Mm-hmm.
while it is the base of the story, it's certainly not the heart of it. It's not. I hate saying this, but it's not really the most interesting part. Maybe because it's not meant to be.
Yeah, although in some ways to me that is the most interesting part, like the things that come about because of that circumstance is I think what makes the movie interesting to me. But
Sure.
uh it's but I think that because it's so condensed at the front when they're explaining this and Peter Lorre comes in with the and also there were people on a train murdered on their way into Casablanca. And it was rumored that the people who were murdered had papers that would get you to Lisbon. Like,
Oh my god, I already forgot about that.
right? Like, that's the setup for the movie. And so Peter Lorre comes in strongly intimating that he has got these papers
Mm-hmm.
and needs a place to stash them because he knows the police are going to come and get him.
Yeah.
And that's the start of the whole thing. And it's real confusing. Like, you don't quite get all of that stuff until you watched it a couple times. And you have the benefit of having seen what happens in the movie that kind of helps contextualize the beginning
Yeah.
when it kind of should be the other way around. And because that's what it ends up doing. Like, the very nature of the city, which is contained entirely inside Rick's cafe, is a place of corruption and
Mm-hmm.
moral ambiguity
Mm-hmm.
and politics, but an indirect, like, passive aggressive style of politics and under the table dealings and decisions on whether you're going to turn somebody in or help somebody out multiple times every day.
Whew. No wonder they're drinking.
It's a stress fucking place. And into the middle of this stressful situation uh, enters some on-duty Nazis looking for a guy.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at Nazis. I'm laughing at the idea of on-duty Nazis just
Well,
because
sure,
I'm
yeah.
like, I'm pretty sure they were never off duty.
I don't know. There was that movie that I didn't watch yet this year that got nominated for Best Picture. You know,
Oppenheimer?
no, the one about the wall. It's set in a yeah.
Oh,
I haven't seen it, but I think it is kind of about like an off-duty Nazi, but
got
also because
it.
he lives on the other side of the wall, and he's like runs the camp or something. I don't know.
Oh,
I
shit.
guess I
Okay.
haven't seen it, but yeah, like so the on-duty Nazis show up looking for this dude Victor Laszlo, who is a I was gonna say
A
underground
troublemaker.
like revolutionary, but he's not. He's not underground. Like he's very publicly leading the
Yeah.
resistance.
Very loudly out there, proud.
Yeah, and like he escaped a concentration camp, and
Mm-hmm.
they are trying to get him back, but they can't just pick him up because he's in. And I guess I don't understand this part because I didn't like the Nazis are real big about following their own rules. I don't feel like they were super into following other people's rules.
I
But in
think this might have been,
Casablanca,
yeah.
no, what were you going to say?
Oh, I feel like this might have been Hollywood taking some liberties because I don't know how much in 1942, since this is happening present day, like, I don't know much that they knew about the Nazis and their methods. Like, you know, from far
Right, that's
away,
possible. Right,
anything happening, we're like, this horrible stuff is happening. These horrible people are doing things. Like, over here, I think we're kind of looking at it with rose-colored glasses and hoping these people can't arrest this man because he's in unoccupied France. Whereas they probably would have just arrested him anyway or just killed him on the spot.
right. Yeah, yeah. So, but the plot contrivance is that he's like, uh, like on base when you're playing tag. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like they couldn't get him unless they got permission from the French guy running the police force, and that's Louis Renault. And he like he doesn't want to get involved. He doesn't want trouble, right? So he's not. He just wants like he doesn't want to hand over Laszlo, but he doesn't want to protect him or let him leave either.
Yeah.
So he's in this sort of weird middle ground, and Rick wouldn't give two shits about any of it, except for Laszlo walks into his gin joint with his ex-girlfriend. And
Yep.
not only his ex-girlfriend, but the woman that he had fallen deeply in love with in Paris and thought he had secured safe passage on the day that the Germans marched into Paris, and she left him at the train station. He left her behind because she never showed up and broke his heart and destroyed everything about him. And now she's here and her husband's here and the Nazis want him and Louis not sure whether he can protect him or not. And the rest of the business of Casablanca is going on. And Rick, who doesn't stick his neck out for nobody, is put in a position where maybe he can steal his girl back. Maybe he can help the freedom fighter escape. Like, all this stuff is going on. And what everyone takes away from it is Rick and Ilsa, and that at the end of the movie, he insists that she leaves with Laszlo.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that people know, and things like, here's looking at you, kid. And all the gin joints, and you played it for her, you can play it for me, and all, like the million things that people know from this movie. But the story is super complicated. And delivered in 1 hour 42 minutes.
It doesn't feel that quick.
But I mean, it doesn't feel quick, but it's so economical. Like, they tell so much story in 1 hour 42 that, like, you're not even sure what the story is. You're so blown over by the people, but there's so much story.
Take a lesson from them, Marvel.
Right. Yeah. Squeeze it in.
Yeah. Scorsese, learn something.
Yeah, exactly. 1 hour and 42 minutes. Couldn't believe it. All the
That's
stuff
a
that
sweet
happens
spot.
in this movie. It's a pretty damn good spot.
Yeah.
So that was just me explaining what happens in the movie, kind of. What did you take from it this time that maybe you hadn't noticed before, or and I want to talk specifically about the Louis stuff in a little bit. So, like, if you have something different.
I mean, he certainly has a hand in the thing I was going to mention. The thing I didn't remember is I did not remember any funny lines whatsoever because they're so. It's not even that people were speaking so fast back in the day, but they were so subtle in their, like, jibes at each other.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the funniest moments to me, oh my God, was when, the Nazis are like, you need to shut down this saloon right now. And he's like, but I don't have just cause to do it. And they're like, find one. He goes, okay. And he blows the whistle. Rick comes over and is like, why are you shutting me down? Monsieur, there is gambling happening here. I can't believe there's gambling. Sir, your winnings. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I died.
Yeah. The
timing.
Your winnings. Yeah. and how, like, when he takes the money, he doesn't even slip it in his pocket. He, like, waves it in the air.
It's just like, thank you, sir.
Yeah, yes, exactly what I needed. And then there's that bit in the first scene with Peter Lorre where he's talking to Rick and saying, like, that he, like, everyone in Casablanca hates me, but you're the only one who doesn't pretend or something, and that's why I think I can trust you.
Yeah.
And then, but Rick was like, he asked him what he thought of him, and Rick was like, if I thought about you at all.
Oh!
Like, it was very much a Don Draper
yes
situation.
I feel sorry for you.
I don't think about you at all. And then what's your nationality? I'm a drunkard.
Oh yeah, I was like, damn, that's a mood.
Right, and then there's that back and forth with the girl that's at like he was going out with or whatever.
I love
she was
you.
like, Well, and she was like, "Where were you last night?" And he goes, "That's so long ago, I don't remember." And she
I
says, "Well, I
know.
see you tonight." And he said, "I never make plans that far ahead."
I
Like,
know. So subtle. Like that's the kind of comedy I want to do. Like I if I try, I fail.
right.
I want to be Humphrey Bogart. Like, oh my
Oh,
god.
I found the line. He says, "You despise me, don't you? If I gave you any thought, I probably would."
Oh,
Like
oh,
that's such a funny it's such a funny retort.
it
So yeah, this movie's just
is.
got jokes.
And you get why women love him. It's so wrong, but you're like, oh my god, I get it.
Yeah, he's very good at forlorn, downtrodden, and yet still kind of on top of it, leading man.
Yeah. Way to go, Lauren
You know,
Bacall.
right? I think one of the things I thought was so good about this movie is when we first meet Ilsa, like we've gotten everything we got up to the point she walks in is setting up what kind of place this is and what role Rick plays there. How he like
Mm-hmm.
finally balances himself in the middle. And, you know, while saying, I stick my neck out for nobody, but like every time he's presented with the opportunity, he helps someone out.
Mm-hmm.
Like he takes the letters from Ugarte and then he helps out the couple in the middle of the movie, and he ends up getting Laszlo out, and he turns, he puts the common good ahead of his own personal life, and tells her to go with him. Like every step of the way, he is sticking his neck out for people, and
Mm-hmm.
but just proclaiming that he doesn't. And then when she shows up, um, like it's ingenious the way they introduce her, right? With the scene with Sam and having her play the song that he knows he's not supposed to play,
Uh-huh.
and how like fire angry like Rick becomes, this guy who has spent this entire time like cool playing everybody who comes in, Ugarte and the Nazis and the French
And you
and
see the slightest twitch of his jowls
right.
when he sees her.
But even before he sees her, he comes storming over
Well, yeah.
because he doesn't want to hear this song. And then he sees her and he understands why the song is being played. So he's no longer mad at Sam.
Mm-hmm.
He's broken.
I
And
could
you go ahead.
No, I could I could so relate to Ilsa in that moment where, you see, or not even you see an old friend, but when she decides, I need to hear this song that reminds
Mm-hmm.
me of the most gut-wrenching, painful breakup of my life. It's
Yeah.
like, ooh, yeah, I can relate to that kind of self-harm.
Sometimes you got to lean into it.
Yep.
You can tell immediately how affected he is by her.
Oh, yeah.
And then they give you the flashback sequence
Which is
where, like,
beautiful.
yeah, like then she leaves and cut immediately to Rick drunk off his ass in the middle of the bar in the middle of the night, like not able to function as a human
Nope.
just because she was there.
Yeah.
And Sam is just trying to help like he always does. Like that friendship is an interesting one to me. um
Yeah.
but he's like, he makes him play the song, and then you see all of the things that happen that led up to her leaving him and why he is destroyed. And like he's three different people, like he's Rick, who's at the beginning of the movie, he's Richard in Paris, and then he's this broken shell of a man from
Mm-hmm.
one interaction with her.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. I'm speechless. I don't have anything more to add to that.
Yeah,
It's just brilliant.
And I don't like. I don't watch movies, romantic movies, and I'm like, I understand why these two people have to be together. But like you watch this and the way that it's shown and the impact, it really, it's so much of it is the difference in him between who he was in Paris and who he is now. It's all walls, it's all guarded, it's all removed. And that's the opposite of the dude that was in Paris.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's implied that he has a dark past, but for whatever reason, she is able to be a source of light in his life that he probably hasn't had in a long time. Like, all you see just enough of their relationship to get to want to want them to be together. Like,
yeah,
it's incredible storytelling.
All right, so let's use that as a transition to
Yes.
Adventures in Intimacy.
Well, I'm not a betting man, but I'm gonna bet they definitely didn't have one on this set.
Well, I would think that's yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna guarantee. And when I say, I mean, granted, most of these movies that we watch won't have had one, but I would imagine too, like, there probably wasn't much discussion on where you're gonna place your hand, how long are you gonna kiss, or anything like that. I mean,
Right.
old-timey kisses all follow a simple formula, which is, if anything, they probably did have to have some counts, or the musicians, the composers were just that good working around it, because I swear all of them have the same beautiful crescendo sweeping up into it, and then they're macking,
Right.
Like,
yeah. And and the other thing too is that there were rules.
Yeah.
So about things you could show and how long you could show them and all of that kind of stuff. So like in some ways, like that part of the intimacy of these kind of movies was prescribed from above.
Yeah. And so I think my favorite part about the intimacy in this is actually a something we don't think about with intimacy, but the music. The music does so much of the work in getting you to want this couple together no matter what. No matter what.
Yeah.
We'll go more into that later. But yeah, the music is just stunning, and I would love to see clips sometimes like they do where the music is stripped away to see. I mean, I'm sure it would still have some beauty and romance to it, but I just think the music does so much of the work here. I will say most of the intimacy is in the Paris flashback. But they've just been talking about how they're going to meet up, and she looks somewhat disturbed, like, I'm probably not going to go, but I can't tell him. You don't know what's going to happen. And also, like, Germany's invading. It's a very distressing time that you can read on her face.
It's a busy day.
But she has this
gray,
moment.
She wore blue.
Yeah. She'll never wear it again. But she has this moment where she, like, gently puts his hand on his chin before they kiss, and then her hand, like, his hand kind of goes on her arm, bringing her hand down, and then she knocks over her glass.
Oh,
And just all in one moment, you had this hope, like, love can conquer all, even in trying times, but then that glass gets knocked over, and you're like, oh no. Okay, maybe not. Maybe love can't conquer all. What's gonna happen? So I think there's just incredible storytelling there. The gazes, oh my god, how they look at each other could have. I'm surprised they didn't burn film.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, they're smolder.
oh, there is smolder, and it's wonderful. It's funny. The thing I have the hardest time getting actors to do is look each other in the eyes for a long time. They're
I think
so
it's hard for
ready.
humans to do that.
It's definitely harder for humans, but actors like to think they're better than other humans and that they can just do anything on a whim.
Right, right.
You can and you can't. Sorry to burst your bubble. But yeah, usually whenever I'm going over choreography with the actors, they're fine putting their hands on each other. They're very eager to get the kiss done and over with, which, is not recommended. But if I have to tell them to hold their gaze, I'm usually like, hey, you got to hold that gaze longer. Now, if it was someone who is uncomfortable looking at in someone else's eyes or being stared right back at, like, I give them spots on their face. But it's still really interesting to me, just how much I have to comment on that more than anything else so far.
Yeah. You mentioned the music, so I think it's a good segue into the Needle Drop Forest.
Oh yeah.
And I was looking. I mean, obviously the big song from this is As Time Goes By. But I was looking at the other things because, like, there's always music playing in the cafe, right? Like, and it's a lot of stuff that you've heard before, or some versions of these songs, like It Had to Be You, or The Very Thought of You. Obviously, As Time Goes By, like, there's all these songs in it, and I was looking. None of them were new songs in 1942. They weren't current. It's like It Had to Be You was 18 years old at the time. A song called Shine was from 1910. The only present day song was Knock on Wood, which I think is the song that Sam is playing, that he says he wrote, and then he tells him to, like, somebody makes him stop playing it after he only plays it for a couple seconds.
I like that one.
I did too. But that's the only contemporary song. Everything else in this is 3 to 40 years old. So it's like if you were watching, a movie from 1992 and all of the songs were from 1976.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's kind of weird, but all of it fits. And if you're us now, 80 years later, we just think those songs are of this time. Like, we smush all of the time together because, we don't know any different.
Well, and I don't think music evolved a lot. I mean, maybe in subtle ways, but I don't think it evolved as much as it did between the 70s and 90s, like, and maybe other eras.
Right. No, that's true.
And I'm gonna blame the two world wars for stunting that growth.
Well, I mean, that's I'm starting to think that, like, those were rough times.
Starting to.
Yeah. There's
It was a pretty big deal. I mean, listen, they made us ration our nylons. Women had to go to work.
Right.
People had gardens. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
You don't get a sequel if the first one isn't pretty big time. That's all I'm saying.
It clearly was, because it just would have been the Great War, but it clearly wasn't great enough. They had to have another one.
No, there's too much money to be made.
Oh my god. A war profiteer.
What if one of our airmen died? So yeah, I just think the music in this is great, and it's like, it's of that time, even though it isn't. And it's
Uh-huh.
also kind of timeless, which is like that role of you must remember this, like that's just so in your body. Like everybody knows that. And
It was the
today still,
hello before hello.
right. The Lionel Richie one or the Adele one?
The Adele one. I don't know. I say that because, I mean, SNL did a joke about this, how like anytime that song came on, people just stopped and
Right.
froze.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know if Lionel Richie's did the same thing. Um,
Probably not, but I like it better.
I mean, it
I'll
is
take,
good. Yeah,
but I'm more of a Lionel Richie guy.
it's a healthier song than Adele's song, or As Time Goes By, which both of those make you long for an ex. And
Yeah.
that's not wrong. It's just not healthy all the
I mean,
time.
it was clear that like that song was. I don't think that in 1942 people were going around talking about being triggered, but
No.
as time goes by, triggered the shit out of Rick.
Oh my God.
I mean, one song and he's just drinking.
A whole
It's
ass
pretty rough.
bottle.
That's right. Um. So there's something that I noticed before we get deeper into the themes of the movie. There's something I noticed when I watched it this time, and I mentioned it to you, and you didn't see it, and I mentioned it to like three other people. I was watching it with Laura, and she was like, "What?" And a couple of other people were like, "No, I never saw that. I never noticed that part of this movie." And then I finally found one person who had seen it. Shouts to Kevin at work. He's like, "Yeah, I knew about that part." But the thing that little
Kevin's a
storyline.
liar.
No, Kevin's pretty smart. He's got a good eye, and I'm not sure that he was saying he saw it, but that he knew that was a thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's probably seen it and picked up on it, but he also knows that that's a part of the movie. But what it is Louis has been using his police officers to bring beautiful women who need help getting to Lisbon to Louis's office.
No.
And Louis trades sex for papers. And it's something he like and we only know this because there's a scene in Louis's office and one of the police officers says, we found another woman who needs help with her papers. And Louis goes over to the mirror and straightens his collar like he's Fonzie at the beginning of Happy Days. He doesn't comb his hair, but neither does the Fonz. And then then a couple scenes later, inside Rick's, somebody brings a woman to Rick. And the conversation is like, oh, something like, this is one of Louis's. Oh, she's married? Oh, he's branching out.
Oh, no.
And, yeah, it's something like that. And she sits down and she's asking Rick, can Louis be trusted?
Mm.
And he's like, well, he's always done what he said he would do before.
Will he give me an STD?
Well, not that. Will he actually give me the papers?
Yeah.
If I do this, and she never says that, but then she says, we don't have the money to pay for these. And my husband's over there trying to win the money at your roulette table, but we don't have the money. And Monsieur Renault has offered me these papers for free. And if my husband doesn't know the horrible thing I have to do to get these papers, that's okay, isn't it? She's looking for like permission and assurance that this is going, if she does this thing, that Louis will actually give her the papers. And Rick is like, people go through lots of stuff. I feel like this one's going to work out for you. And he gets up and he goes over to the table and he tells the husband to put it on 22. He nods at the croupier. It lands on 22. He tells him to let it ride. It lands on 22 again. He picks up his money and leaves. And Louis asks the croupier, or Rick asks the croupier, how's it going tonight? He goes, well, it's about $2,000 less than I thought it was going to be. And the woman thanks Rick and leaves. And then Louis comes in and is like, I've got a blonde coming in tomorrow night. Maybe she could lose.
Oh, no.
And it's like, it's this whole story that happens in a scene and 2 lines. And it gives you so much about who Louis is and what he does to get by in Casablanca, and who Rick is, and the ways in which he helps people, even while saying, I don't stick my neck out for anybody.
Yeah.
And like, it's this thing that is so subtly done that like it's not presented the way I spoke those lines. Like when
it's
I
very
explain
tactfully
it,
done.
yeah, it's it's very subtle. And if you're not paying attention, you don't understand what's actually going on there. And when I explain it, it's very blatant because I'm not an artist. I'm explaining this thing, you know?
But I wonder, too, if they had to deliver those things. I mean, part of acting is making the lines sound natural in your own voice. But I would say in that era, both as a present day, but then also as wait, what am I trying to say? I think for that time, both on set and off set, you had to be more subtle about things. But on set, I think they had to be more subtle to like get things past the execs. Because if you said something too suggestively, then it's like, oh no, that's going to upset people. No, we can't have that. Change that.
Well, no, I agree. I mean, I think that's 100% true. I also think that it's a storytelling choice. Like they wanted it to be subtle, but they wanted it to be illustrative. And it's both of those things. And it bowled me over because in the 4 times, however many I'd seen this movie before this, I never saw this entire world in a scene. I missed the whole thing.
I think it gives you a more realistic portrayal of, well, this could kind of go into a theme, but like what people have to do to survive hard times.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that's definitely a theme for this movie. Yeah. We see what the woman is willing to do. And what Laszlo is willing to risk, and what Ilsa is willing to give up in order to survive, and in order not just to survive, but to do something more. Because Laszlo is a hero, right? He's a guy who is fighting on the front lines of public opinion and in the face of the Nazis and escaping a concentration camp, which, not for nothing, that's where he was the whole time that Ilsa was with Rick. She just figured he was dead.
Yeah, they told her. I'm pretty sure she was told he was dead.
Mm-hmm. And then and that's what we don't find out during Rick's flashback, because Rick doesn't know it yet. But that's why she didn't meet him at the train. And so now you're no longer mad at her for standing him up, if you ever were. Like if that's what you took from the flashback, you're not like, you don't blame her. You understand what happened and why, and you know that he can't hold it against her either.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like all and they deliver that to you later as like oh, by the by. It's just it's another like little subtle thing that they just sprinkle in. And this whole time you've been watching, them sort of adjust to each other being there and try to balance the like Rick and Louie are both trying to keep stasis.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they just want this whole thing to stay fucking chill. It's really what they're hoping for. Like Louie will help some people under the table, or Rick will help some people under the table. Louie will help some people in the sack. Like they're both helping people get out of the city, doing their own shit, and all of it is broken when Ilsa and Laszlo and the Nazis come to town.
Yep.
Which, I mean, when the Nazis come to town, it does kind of spoil things.
I mean, yeah, they had probably just chased the Von Trapps out, and we're like, well, fuck, we didn't get them.
That's right. Now we got to
Let's
go
get
this
this
Laszlo
guy.
character. That's right.
He tore up our flag.
Oh, you can't tear up the flag. Not that flag. And then that guy came. Did you hear about the guy in Cairo who like he got the ark that the Fuhrer was looking for?
Oh my god!
And then so many of our fellow Nazis melted. Did you hear about that? There's a lot of shit going on. I feel like Strasser is that this Nazi's name? I feel like
I think so.
He is probably like, I got the best assignment. Like,
oh yeah.
I'm not stuck in Egypt where it's really hot and then my face melted.
I'm not having to sit through a family fucking singing festival.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, the Alps are beautiful, but it's hard to breathe. Kind of, it's I don't, it's a lot. But I can come here and just hang out in this bar, and like the worst thing that's going to happen is that while we're singing our German songs, the folks at the other side of the bar are going to sing French songs. Like, this is a plum assignment.
I just realized something I'm grateful for, and it's that so far I have not, and I don't think we ever have to worry about this. Well, you don't have to, I do. But like, I've never heard Spitznagel used as an officer's name in a World War II film, and I'm really thankful because I think it sounds too funny. Even
it's too long. Yeah,
it's too long. It's probably a commoner name because that it means nailsmith. So,
right.
I'm finally thankful for my last name. You're welcome, Mom.
Yeah, it's
too funny to be a Nazi name.
But it's not funny enough to be a funny Nazi name.
Yeah.
Like it's not.
Oh, it could have been Jojo Rabbit.
Flangenbergen. Like, like it's got to be really long in order to be comedically Nazi-ish. And Spitznagel is not comedically long. It's just like normal length long.
Exactly.
Yeah. So here's the thing that I see this movie presented as the story of a guy who is cynical, choosing to give up what is important to him personally for the greater good. So it's a journey from like cynicism to I don't know what's the right word.
Optimism,
or like patriotism almost. Like, yeah, it's a move from caring only about yourself to caring about the greater good.
It's a move from apathy to empathy.
Yeah. But I don't think it is. Like, because I don't think that Rick is ever a cynic.
He's just someone who's been hurt.
He's been hurt, but everything we're told about his past, and we're told this a number of times, is that he's been involved on the losing side of all of these efforts, and he was on the side of the poor. He was on the side of the little guy. Mm-hmm. He's out there, like, supplying arms to people and whatever it was he was doing in those previous conflicts, supporting the little guy. And he's in Paris when the Nazis are about to come through, and he falls in love and thinks he's got a way out, and she leaves him, but he never stops. So he's heartbroken, but he never stops helping the little guy. He's helping out Ugarte by trying to hide the papers for him. He helps out the woman and her husband. He helps out Louis, and Louis helps him. And he helps Laszlo, and he helps Ilsa. He just is helping people the entire time. So the only transition is from him saying that he's a cynic to him not saying he's a cynic.
That's true. I feel like it's a self-preservation tactic.
Well, I think that's probably true. I think it's also it's a good mask publicly. Like if you pretend that you don't give a shit, you can do a whole lot of shit under the table that no one notices because of how vocally you don't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's how Deadpool is like a good guy, because he's always talking about what a shitty guy he is and saying all these like mean things and jokey, nasty things, but he's always sticking up for the little guy. So it's interesting because it's always shown that like people always talk about, oh, he was a cynic, and his heart opened or whatever they think happened. But I was like, I don't buy that he was ever a cynic.
No. So is that your lead into the themes?
Yes, that was my theme.
I was gonna say that sounded like a theme.
It was.
I know for me, and I think the Fray said it the best. Sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like that's a big theme in this. Because, do you want to ask me the question? Or should we leave that for the very end?
No, I mean, if it ties into this, let me ask you the question.
I think it ties into this.
Okay. Should he have told her to stay? Should she have stayed?
I think that's the better question. Should she have stayed?
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Why?
I think because this is war, Peacock. Because when we think the world is ending, we tend to lean towards survival. Like, even sometimes our bodies are meant to survive no matter what. Like, your body will keep fighting even when you think it's done. It's kind of annoying, the body's capacity to fight for life. Just my opinion, man. But I think she knew she wouldn't survive there. They were going to have to go on the run. It wasn't going to be the same thing. Also, I was watching, because of course I want them together. I'm not heartless. I've also been that person to make many a poor decision based off of who I'm in love with at the time. Like, I can't say I would or would not have done the same thing because I haven't been in that exact situation or anything remotely near it. But like, I think they both understand better than most people that they had something beautiful at a different time. And they got closure in a way, which is more than most people do with...
You are pounding the shit out of that table.
Huh?
You are pounding the shit out of that table.
Oh! I didn't mean to. That was so light, too.
So funny. It's so funny. Because you can't see me. I was doing the Donkey Kong arms.
But yeah, so as much as I would have loved her to stay, I think in order for both of them to do the best that they can do in terms of helping people in this war, they have to be a part. I think she had to be with Victor Laszlo. That was her original guy, and she is there to help his work. And her leaving and getting, for lack of a better phrase, out of the way, is now going to inspire Rick to go back and work.
So that's interesting. I agree, but for different reasons.
Okay.
But I think it's interesting that you said that they got closure, because this might be the first movie where characters get even address the issue of closure. That might not be true at all, but he says it in that speech to her. He says, "We'll always have Paris."
Yes.
He says, "We didn't for a while, but we got it back last night."
Yeah.
Which is that second half of that sentiment, people always remember "We'll always have Paris," but the gut punch is the part at the end where we lost it for a while, but we got it back. That's closure.
Yeah.
And that's that's such I think maybe a novel idea to be expressed in a 1942 movie. But
I feel like a lot of us have had our own Paris, but we would have loved to have had it again, even briefly, like they do.
Right. Sure. Yeah. And that's why I think the more interesting question isn't should she have stayed. I think the more interesting question from a story arc perspective is, should he have told her to stay instead of telling her to get on the plane? Because the act of him encouraging her to leave means that he's already decided to do the thing that you just said her leaving inspires him to do. He wouldn't have put her on the plane if he hadn't already decided that he needed to do this, that the problems of three people, don't matter a hill of beans or whatever the line is. He's already gotten there. And as I previously posited, he was kind of always there. He was always the guy who was helping out. He was always a little selfless. And so for him to be selfless towards her and Laszlo at the end that's also his closure. It's him coming back to the person he's always been through closing the door on this experience. And it lets him, and it also lets him be a hero. Because he isn't, he keeps doing stuff for people, but the character at the end, by turning away the thing that he loves most and the thing that we've seen makes him so happy for the greater good, is a heroic move. That's really him sticking his neck out.
And I think he was able to do that because of the conversation they had the night prior, and because of how he had seen her stand by Victor the entire time. I think mostly just that, it's not so much that I thought him pushing her away then made him go, now I will do this. I think the night before is where he made that decision.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's we didn't for a while. We lost it, but we got it back last night. Yeah.
I could get picky about the whole gender roles part of this, but honestly, I didn't have a problem with it because I totally understand the sentiment of I just want you to make the decisions because I can't. I am overwhelmed. I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm too afraid of hurting people again. Please just take the reins. Please just do the thing you men love doing best and just decide.
Right. Yeah. You asked me to think. Well, I'm doing the thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is a good lead into the EST for me.
God, I have
Uh,
no idea.
yeah, you do. Because this is the most quoted movie ever. Like, it has
Oh,
the
yeah.
largest number of quotable lines of just about any movie in history. And I like to quote movies. And this is one that people, it's like Shakespeare. People quote it without knowing they're quoting it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for me, that's what this is. Like, all of those lines, or the wrong variations of those lines, like Play It Again, Sam,
Yeah.
slash Dave. Them so well that it overshadows the plot of the movie.
Right? Because that's all people will remember. Like, people who listen to this, who haven't watched it in a while, are going to be baffled. Like, what movie are they talking about?
Right.
Are they?
All of
I
that shit
signed up for.
happens in this movie.
I wanted to listen to Casablanca. I didn't.
Right. Right. How come? Wait. How come nobody says at the beginning of Beautiful Friendship? Say that part. I want the Beautiful Friendship part. Well, what about the wait? You got the Hill of Beans thing wrong. Come on.
Listen, I don't want people to laugh at my Humphrey Bogart impression.
I don't care about that. I just think that, like, it is. This movie is so goddamn quotable.
Oh yeah.
And I can't believe how much the quotability of it made me not even know what the movie was about.
Yeah.
I think that's so bizarre. But it's safe to say that I love this movie more now than I did prior to watching it last week.
Me too.
Like, it's just so fucking good.
I think this is probably one of the most memorable black and white films.
Oh, there's a lot. I mean, I think there's just I mean, it's number 2 on the list. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also,
I'm
like, there's
an
a
easy
bajillion ones. Yeah. You're not
No, for sure. But, like, unfortunately, so many of those have been lost to time.
Or just not, like, not shown as much as this one. Or not hyped as much as this one. There are a billion I mean, Turner Classic Movies or the Criterion Channel. Oh my God, so much great stuff that I've never heard of.
Mm-hmm.
But this one you've heard of, so you've seen it.
I think so. I was talking to Walter after about, like, this is the kind of acting style I love. Like, I mean, because when we impersonate old movies or mimic them, we make fun of the use of the transatlantic accent, which I can't really do right now. And then, like, how melodramatic everything is. But, like, this movie is just stunning, and I think it's one of the subtlest in terms of the melodrama, and that's the kind of acting I want to do. I don't care if it's me reacting with my eyes glistening with tears. Like, yes, sign me up. That's beautiful. That is emoting.
Well, and you know what's interesting too about that is that apparently, and I'd heard this and I was reading it again after I watched the movie, but they didn't decide up until the last day if she was going to stay or go.
Oh my God.
She played that entire role like hedging, because she didn't know. The actress didn't know what the character was going to do. And so all of that, like, indecision and ambivalence that she's playing is real, because she didn't know till the end, which I think is crazy. But like, I think it comes through.
Oh yeah. And it's stuff like that makes film not necessarily better than theater, but different and cooler in some ways. Because, like, I'm more of a stage actor, but you couldn't do that on stage.
Right.
Like, unless you're in some immersive theatrical experience, or you're, just putting everyone in danger every night. Like, you can't do that. You can't make a choice. Like, I'm Lady M. I don't know if I'm going to kill the Duke tonight.
Right. Right.
Well, you kind of need to know.
Yeah. It matters.
It matters. Uh, that's going to be a very different ending if you don't kill him.
Yeah. Go ahead and just kill him. It's fine.
We can't turn this into a comedy. We can't improv Shakespeare.
Well, I don't know. Somebody could.
Listen. I'm sure somebody could, and to them I say, "Fuck you." I'm jealous.
I bet you that there have been numerous improv Shakespeare troupes at different like second cities or you know IOs or whatever.
Now I want to make a bit where I'm pretending to improv Shakespeare, but like on you just see my hand off to the side counting
Right.
to make sure I get it all, because that would be me. I don't know how you do that without like the little tapping.
Right.
That's why I struggle with mental math.
I think what would be great is if that movie Yesterday where like the one guy remembered the Beatles.
Yeah.
I think if they did that with Shakespeare, but the guy who remembered Shakespeare was in an improv class. And so he just made it seem like he was improving all of Shakespeare, and then everyone would be like way more impressed.
That's brilliant.
I know. I try trademark. That's how it's my idea. Nobody out there steal my genius idea and make money off of it. Concern it. All right, so I think that once again we have proven my theory that everything comes back to Aaron Spelling.
I think so.
Including Casablanca, the second greatest movie of all time, according to AFI.
Which predated Aaron Spelling.
The movie, it may not have predated him as a living person on the planet.
No, not as a living person, but
yeah, it was out there doing its thing before he was. That's for sure. Well, until then, Cheesemeisters.
Cheers.
Cheers.